Hello, hello, hello. Greetings and wishing you a happy new year, everybody. This is Alicia. I am Barney Matahari. This is a timeless and special collective message. However, I am filming it at the beginning of 2026, so it's still relevant for whenever you hear it, but the energies that are infused at this time will be present for you whenever you come across this reading. So this reading is, I kept hearing the phrase, please mind the gap. So we'll get into it in a moment, but I just want to say welcome to repeat visitors, subscribers, and anyone who's new. I'm so grateful and privileged to have you here. Thank you for stopping by. Please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed, and maybe commenting, sharing, and subscribing if you like what you hear. Anyway, that being said, I am going to get into it. So I've got this great new tarot deck that I'm absolutely in love with. It's the Botanica deck, and this is the Eight of Cups card. And it is a tarot deck about the language of flowers, which I'm completely in love with. So the Eight of Cups, it is the flower on this card is known as monk's hood or helmet flower. It's a highly poisonous and symbol of knight errantry, likely because its flower is shaped by a knight's helmet. In the ancient world, it was used to poison wells and springs and to stop advancing armies. And the cups that are depicted in this card are brass lassie cups. So I just wanted to anchor the reading with that. I specifically asked for a card to represent the reading that was coming through and the please mind the gap messaging that I keep hearing over and over again. So this is a specific message for a particular somebody, and I'm going to address this somebody so that it doesn't get confusing. So take it if it resonates. But you could also be a witnessing observer. You could know this person, or you could have come across this person in your past, in your family, in your community, in your work, somewhere like that. But with that being said, I'm just going to get into it. So who you are someone who is bright and delightful. You were most likely a compliant child. You were probably quite self-sufficient, mature for your age, maybe even considered precocious. But you've been in a period of prolonged hermitude, solitude, and it may have started off as solitude enforced solitude, or maybe that is just your nature. But I'm getting more that you've been kind of put into solitude by your inner being, because that's really how, if you know, you know. And I'm also getting, after a booklet of ego deaths you've been through and betrayals. So for the most of you who will come across this reading that resonates with that, that's a bunch of dark nights of the soul, a bunch of arriving here through transcending pain, really, and coming into what I want to say is more universal, not unconditional love, but unselfish love. And after that journey, you have remained committed to being open to love. Whether or not you're coupled up right now, you're someone who is only willing to couple with. And I don't mean that just in a romantic couple. I mean that in all intimate relationships, family ships, best friendships, anyone that would go beyond the acquaintance, somebody that you would break bread with and also have in your phone to call if the chips were down. Someone that you would want to share your wins and your shames, your pains with. So this journey has led you to that place. You want someone who also is like-minded, like-hearted, and of a similar wavelength, in that you're on the path to wanting to transcend your separate selfish self. And you're both in agreement on that, irrespective of what the other person in whatever this relationship would be, that you're willing to go into at that in deeper with. And in terms of your gifts and qualities, what I'm seeing for you is just a really pure heart. You're very pure of intention, and you always had that, but it might have been weaponized against you. You definitely have been someone who has been service to others as a core value. Whether or not you were always able to do that in a healthy way, most of us who have been through a lot of ego deaths, we're not always able to do that if we didn't have the infrastructure around us to help nurture that, and would have gotten taken advantage of. Also, I feel like you've very strong laser focus, and to those around you who do not understand you, they might say things like, oh, they're way off with the fairies, or they're off with the birds. And that could actually literally be true, but it's just because they don't understand you. They think that they have thought at times, many times, that you were Delulu. Those who just didn't have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and the hearts to discern, is the way I'm going to put it. And you're also someone who might have thought, I don't really, what are my gifts? I don't really feel like, the word that's coming to the phrase that's coming to me is astrally deficient. So you might be, someone who has gone and had readings done, and really been in awe of people who were able to tap into their gifts very easily. The thing is, you were always being very tapped in, but your BS meter is really strong. So what it actually has been for you is that you were quite resistant to astral interference, and you might have perceived that as being astrally deficient, was the phrase that was coming into my head. And like I said, what I mean by that is you might have been somebody who was like, oh, I wish I could read tarot, I wish I could scry, I wish I could read the Akashics. You can, but you do it in a very innate way. Like, that's just how you're built. And actually for you, it's what takes you out of it, which is basically everybody around you. So you're incredibly sensitive and incredibly empathic and incredibly sensitive to other energies. So until you went into that hermitude and were in your own energy, you had trouble discerning what was, where you end and another begins. Also, because you're highly, highly, highly aware, like viscerally, that we are all one. So because you have this purity of intention, you would have projected quite a lot onto people your good qualities of innocence and purity and service to others, when that wasn't really the case for them. So you could have been somebody who, got taken advantage of. And I'm thinking what my inner being is showing me is, back in the day when the white man, in inverted commas, when the Europeans came to North America, for example, or to South America, and they landed, and the indigenous people thought of them as being gods, and they were very naive and they believed them. I feel like you had that kind of quality to you when people were coming to you and blowing smoke and saying, oh, you're so great, therefore you should do for me, instead of doing for themselves. And that's where a lot of the betrayal would have come in, and the betrayal trauma that you would have felt and would have needed to overcome would have been to, first of all, learn how to forgive them for what they had perpetrated knowingly on you, but also knowing that that was coming from an ignorance on their part, but also ultimately self-forgiveness for allowing yourself to be treated that way and for not seeing it. I'm hearing, how did I not know? How did I not see it? Why have I been so dumb? But I feel like you're actually very much out the other side of that process at this stage. If anything, those are kind of residual thoughts that you might be just processing through and leaving that in the past, which is giving me the Eight of Cups. So it really, this is a good representation. And please mind the gap. That is in the London Underground. You hear that all the time. It's like, please mind the gap, please mind the gap. And that's to warn people to step back so that they, you know, when they're in the tube station, that they don't fall onto the tracks and get hurt. I feel like your training, a lot of it has been self-led. You've taken courses, you've taken classes with people, but you're really very advanced as a soul. So you are at the stage, in my opinion, where you, and what I'm feeling from connecting to your energy, is that one of the reasons that you processed through a lot of different modalities was because they would work for a time and then you would be ready for something else. You just process energy very, very quickly. And you were activating a lot of modalities that you'd had in previous lifetimes. And we have a lot of, I'm hearing lost knowledge. We have a lot of lost knowledge. So you would typically be someone who would, even, give an example. So maybe you take movement classes. Maybe you take yoga. It's not saying that like, oh, you're able to do the most advanced yoga poses, but energetically, you may be more advanced than some of the people that you've taken classes with. So your time in that class came to a natural conclusion, Eight of Cups, and you were better served actually doing your own practice at home or something like that. That's just an example. But I feel you're at the stage now where you're ready for a true teacher. You know, bodhisattva, someone who has actually gotten to where you want to go, and that's the transcendence of your separate selfish self. And you want to be able to live life from an inner being led place. And most of us say that, but a lot of us don't actually really understand what is involved in becoming that person. And of course, I'm thinking bodhisattva, I'm thinking of Jesus, and I'm also thinking of Kuan Yin. So that's that selfless service. And what's interesting to me about both of those examples, Kuan Yin being Kuan Yin's story being that, you know, she was very much that hermit path. But if you know anything about, you know, if you look into the Holy Grail and that whole legendary, I'm not telling you what to believe. You have to decide that for yourself. But, you know, Jesus had a line of successors. And there's that path of being the celibate path and the familyship path. So I feel like both of those are open to you as someone who is willing and working to transcend basically your I don't want to just say your ego, but living from an egotistical space, like leading with your inner being, leading with that soulful side of yourself rather than the material side of yourself. I feel like your training has very much been around relationships. I'm hearing painfully purifying betrayals you've experienced. And also in the temporal world, in 3D land, you know, in career, in getting things off the ground, in the way society, and I'm doing that in inverted commas if you're listening, the way society deems success, you may come across as someone as failure to launch because maybe you haven't found that person who can meet you in that vibration of wanting to have transcended your separate selfish self. And you haven't been in a community because most people are not at that stage. And I feel like you are. And I feel like you're very much here to be a teacher and a guide, but not by standing up on a pulpit, more by living your life in the way, in the following the law of one. service to others over service to self. And service to others is not taking things personally. And I'm hearing the 4 agreements as well for you. So you really have mastered. For you very much. I'm hearing like your life to this incarnation to date and the lives before, but we're really kind of more focused on where you are right now as we go into whenever you're hearing this reading, like death energy mastery of tower energy, mastery of cycles and abundance, and an understanding of what true abundance is, mastery of transformation. And you're someone who is here in this lifetime tying up a lot of loose ends. So you may have noticed, again, we have the 8 of Cups, walking away from things that you've invested in, but into self-forgiveness with compassion, humility, and kindness, very strong for you. And I feel like you've got a strong intention of, again, seeking oneness with universal spirit, but not at the expense of anyone else. I mean, that would be impossible, wouldn't it? Because if you were, you wouldn't be on the true seeking of oneness with universal spirit if you were doing it at the expense of somebody else. Your intention plus your actions, your thoughts, the things that you ingest mentally, emotionally, the people that you surround yourself around, the environment that you live in, the food that you eat, and how you walk every day of your life, every moment of every day. Not saying that you don't make mistakes, because you're a human being. You're an amazing soul in a human body. So you do come with the limitations of being human. But at the same time, you're very much led by faith and not by sight. And you're very connected into your inner being. And I'm seeing an alignment in your koshas, a real beautiful, more harmony throughout your koshas, your emotional, your mental, your physical, your intellectual, your wisdom bodies. And I'm seeing that kind of being more frequent and for longer periods of time for you. Also, I feel like you're very unselfish in your application of service to others. And service to others, you have that innate understanding that service to others is service to self, is service to the divine. But it doesn't mean being a doormat, and it doesn't mean being ever submissive to the wrong energies. You're submissive to the truth. You're submissive to your inner being. You're submissive to divinity, I want to say. And you also have a real adventurous spirit about you as well. And you realize, like, you may have been somebody that traveled a lot, or that got into, again, we talked about you being involved in a lot of different modalities. You just had this, I don't want to call it an insatiability, but you always had an awareness that there's always more to learn, more to grow, more to experience. And you ended up finding that through not only interacting with the outside world, but very, very strongly, I'm seeing a huge, rich inner world for you. So what now? Ultimately, it's your choice. It's your free will. And you are so respectful of the free will of others. Again, the 8 of Cups. Please mind the gap. The gap between you and those that did not want to come with you, those that tried to pull you back, those that perceived you as failure to launch, those that perceived you as being weird or off with the fairies or head in the clouds. They didn't understand you, and the gap has just widened so much between you and so many that you have left behind. Not in a I'm better than them way, but in a I'll catch up. This is great. We're all ultimately going here. We're all ultimately trying to reunite with spirit. We're all ultimately going to the same place, back to source. You know that you don't have resentment for them now in the way that you would have at the time of betrayal, because you have transcended that. You have been working on it, and you can probably still tap in and remember the pain of what it was like, but what you know now so much more is the pain that they're feeling is a separation from spirit, is that they it's just this unknowing. You're so aware that, come on, you can do this too, but you can't explain that to them. They need to walk it themselves, and they will when they're ready. And there's a peace within you, a serenity within you, a tranquility within you, that even though you have had to leave them behind to go on your own way, you know that someday being vibrational, that you will connect in a way that they understand, but it's just that their human avatars don't understand right now, if that makes sense. So you're next for you, I'm just seeing the star. You're reconnecting with soul family. If you choose, you also are primed for a sacred union with somebody who is also very committed to that unselfish love and living by that service to others, the law of one. And that's ultimately what you're going to be about the rest of your incarnation, as long as you're on this planet, is service to others, the law of one. How you're going to do that, well, that's up to you. You could be doing it by, maybe you'll be an artist, maybe you'll build a business, maybe you will you'll create a family. Whatever it is you do, that is just who you are. So no matter how you move through the world, that's what you're doing. You're serving others. It's a vibration. It's a frequency. It's a way of being. It's how you eat, breathe, sleep, work, play. That's just who you are. And that's non-negotiable for you now. And you're of that frequency that it's like you're no longer compatible with people who don't live that way. Yes, you can serve them, but you can't be in intimate connection with them, because it doesn't work. What is that? Vibration finds its own resonance. Water seeks its own level. That's where you're at. So you're in the process of finding your own level after after burning it all down. I'm hearing Girl on Fire by Alicia Keys. And where? And this might be weird for some of you, but what I'm seeing is inner earth. So take this however that resonates for you. That could be literally, or it could be figuratively. And why? Because you qualify now. Your frequency reflects somebody who, if they chose, could transcend to inner earth. Your inner being knows. It's your choosing. Every step that you take in the chaos brings you closer to where you want to go. But your inner being knows, and you are so tapped into your inner being. Not saying that there's not going to be confusion and people are not going to try to convince you otherwise. And now that you're solid in your leaving, that they're not going to try and pull you back, and you won't get tested. And who ultimately gets attracted to that healing energy? It's people who need to be healed. So it's not like, oh, I've reached that stage of frequency and now it's all going to be love and light around me. You are the love and light, babe. And you are going to still attract people around you who need your love and light, and want you to do for them rather than doing for themselves. And you're going to continue to show them that they can do it themselves. And I'm hearing Jesus say, would you be healed? He's not going around healing them. He's asking them, would they be healed? Then pick up your bed and walk. And that is what your next, that is the energy for you, pile collective, because this was a collective message. So I'm going to leave it there. I actually have a playlist that I'm going to link below that was, as the messages were kind of coming through, that really my inner being, I like to leave my Spotify on random and see what comes up. And as these songs were playing, these are the messages that were coming through for you, and I was guided to bring them to you. And I hope that some of you find this useful, helpful. I am so beyond grateful to read for you, collective, today. I'm sending you blessings. Drop a globe emoji in the comments if this resonates with you in any way. Blessed be, Happy New Year, and happy lifetime. And don't forget to subscribe. Blessed Travels, collective. Sending you lots and lots and lots and lots of love. Bye.